Here for bringing you another episode in our Off the Carousel series, where we will be joined by each and every new head coach to the Division One ranks. There are almost 60 of them. We're going to be rolling these out a couple of days throughout the month of May and the month of June. So make sure that you subscribe to the channel. And if you like this interview, don't be afraid to tap that like button. That stuff really does help our channel and help our presence on YouTube. It helps more people like you find this content. And since I have you guys here, make sure that you check out our Instagram and TikTok pages. We are going to be pumping out more unique content over there throughout the summer heading into next season. Like, for example, did you know that Penny Hardaway was shot when he was a player in college? I bet you didn't know that. There are more stories like that on those pages. The links are in the description below. So now, without further ado, let's get into another edition of Off the Carousel.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lucas Harkins here with Field of 68, and I am joined by new Butler head coach Thad Matta on this episode of Off the Carousel. First of all, welcome home, and how are you doing, Coach?
So far so good. Everything's been kind of fast-paced as it usually is when you start a new job and kind of take over. So, burning the candle at both ends, but enjoying what I'm doing.
And then you mentioned several times throughout this process that this job at this time just felt right. What is it about Butler that stood out to you as a player, as a first-time coach, and then this time that really makes it feel right?
Well, I think as I think back to my time at Butler as a student athlete, as a assistant coach, a head coach, and then even when I was away, just following the program, I was the biggest Butler fan when I wasn't here. I just, and you know this, I love what Butler University, Butler University does for people. I mean, I know I wouldn't be sitting in this position if I hadn't gone to Butler. And I view what guys that have come through this program and where they are today in terms of their personal lives and fathers and stuff like that. And I love what Butler stands for across the board. This place is not a factory where we just use basketball players. It's you develop them as people and they become great players.
And you joked at your introductory press conference that there were more people there listening to you talk than there were watching you play when you were at Butler. What has it been like to watch the program grow over the past few years? And what's maybe your vision for how you can add to that growth moving forward?
Well, I think without a doubt, it's a completely different job than when I played here. And even when I coached here back in 2000, just the fact that, they played for the national championship 2 years in a row. I think being in a great basketball powerhouse conference like the Big East, I mean, it's a much higher level job and seeing the transformation over time and honestly being a season ticket holder here the last few years and coming to games, I was shocked when I first walked in and remember they were playing Kennesaw State in an opener and the place was packed. I'm like, this is what I had envisioned a long time ago and here it's come to fruition and it was exciting to see.
Yeah, and you've been around the program and around Hinkle the last few years, and obviously you've seen much of the core already being there. What really stands out about the returning players on your roster? What do you like about what you've seen on the court from them, and maybe what has you excited to work with this group of guys in particular?
Well, I think, first and foremost, we were only able to do like 4 workouts with them when we got here, just because of you have to take the NCAA finals week before off and all that stuff. But first and foremost, I like that the guys that were in the program stayed in the program. I remember I was coming to meet with the team on a Sunday morning, and as I was leaving my house, I told my wife, I said, look, I can walk in there and nobody be in the room. That's happened now and across college basketball, but the guys that have stayed, I think they're great kids. I think they're hungry. I think they're willing to do the work that's going to need to be done to get us back to being competitive and winning basketball games. One of the things that I love, but I don't like is we're really young with the guys we got coming back. That's a great thing, but it's also, we don't have a ton of experience. in terms of years of college basketball. And we got to get these guys to continue to grow up at a rapid pace.
And then you entered the situation, even with that core, with a few scholarship openings, and you've already been able to fill a few of those. What do you really feel about how those new arrivals can help you guys alongside the current core?
I got to be honest. I don't know if I can talk about them yet. I'm not sure what I can and can't do, but I will say this with the guys that we've added. I think that we've added some really, really good basketball players and guys that can come in here and help us. And I think we filled some needs because, you look at Butler's team last year, I think they lost 7 guys. And so from that standpoint, and we've added some age, we've added some guys that have been in the NCAA tournament that have won conference championships. And that to me is very important. And probably most importantly, I think the guys we've added so far are great kids, and they come from great families, which is something that's very important to me.
And then you're also bringing in pretty much a brand new staff outside of retaining David Ragland. What do you see those new faces bringing to Butler, particularly from new assistants or support staff?
Well, I love the staff I've been able to put together, and it's one of those where for the first few days here, I was probably doing the work of 8 people, and I wanted to make sure I got the right hires and got the right people in here, and obviously highly intelligent people and hard working, but also have an understanding of what Butler is and sort of its uniqueness. And was able to hire a couple of my former players and guys that know me. That's very important. And most importantly, guys are going to come in, they're going to work hard, and they're going to do it the right way.
With the explosion of the transfer portal and introduction of NIL, recruiting feels like a lot different than it was 5 or 6 years ago. What are some of those challenges that you see with those changes, and what are perhaps some exciting elements that come from them too?
Well, I think it's funny. Somebody sent me a text today. I want to see if I can pull this up about the transfer portal. Is it of the roughly 1,000 players still available in the transfer portal, 529 of those averaged less than 3 points a game or did not register any statistics this past season. And, I think recruiting still recruiting in terms of, you're trying to build relationships, whether it's a transfer or a young man coming out of high school. You're trying to find a right fit for your program, not only basketball wise, but academically and who they are as people. So that hasn't changed. I think, with the portal, you probably are going about it a little bit of a different way these days, but it's still recruiting at the end of the day, and it's still trying to find, the pieces of the puzzle that really fit to build a program.
You mentioned during your introductory press conference that you're going to play a winning style of basketball. You've been in coaching for a long time. How has the game evolved since you started and changed the way you coach, or perhaps skills you particularly prioritize?
It's funny. I don't know how much the game's changed. The one thing I still know is you've got to score more points than your opponents do. And when I talk about a winning style, I think, you start with the defensive end and really being a juggernaut on defense, having 5 guys connected and trying to be as disruptive as you possibly can to create easy baskets. And I think offensively, the game has changed where there's so many ball screens now, there's so many DHOs. But when push comes to shove, it's about putting your players in the right position to be successful with what they can do. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I've always taken very serious in my coaching is just the skill development of the players that we have and making them the best possible players that they can be.
And then with kind of fortuitous timing, you guys have an international trip coming up this summer. The ability to hold practices, obviously a huge plus, but how can those trips be so important to a team, maybe this team in particular being at your first year with the team?
Well, I think it allows us to jumpstart on practice and just the, how I want to practice. We've always been a program that practices very fast, because that's how the game's played. I think, getting terminology and starting to build your offense and most importantly, building your defense. I look forward to having those 10 practices with our guys, but I also think one of the major advantages of a foreign trip is just the cohesiveness that your team can build, because you're spending a lot of time and no pun intended, but foreign territory. And I think, that's something that I've seen in these trips I've taken before, where you can really build your camaraderie in terms of your team and find out who your leaders are going to be. And, just sort of learn more about your players as you go into the regular season.
And then going back to any point in your career, what is the funniest, craziest, or most entertaining recruiting story of your career?
Oh, you said we only got 10 minutes, man. I could talk on that forever. I don't know. I mean, I remember one time I had a father call me and he said, look, coach, we're going to list 3 schools tonight, and he's not going to one of them. It's down to you and the other school. We're going to turn our phones off for 1 week, and in 1 week we'll call you back and we want to see who the best salesman is. And I said, look, in all due respect, I don't want to be known as a salesman in this profession. We're talking about your son's life. And, here's the things that we're going to be able to do to make him better. And he wasn't talking about that stuff. He was talking about something completely different that I wasn't accustomed to. And needless to say, we did not get him. And, I had one where I was recruiting a kid and it was senior walkout week or whatever. So I had driven, left like at 3:00 in the morning from Miami University, and got to his house, and the kid was asleep in the house. He couldn't wake up. He'd been up all night. So I opened the door and a dog came flying around the corner to attack me. And, I slammed the door and kept ringing the doorbell. Finally, the kid woke up, and I didn't get him either. But, there's so many great stories that throughout the recruiting that, when you get with coaches, you sit down and you talk, and it's amazing.
All right. Well, that was Butler head coach Thad Matta. Thanks so much for coming on the show, Coach. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.